What's going on, guys? I'm back with a new video for this week 15. Quick recap of week 14. The lineup scored around 150 points. Was enough to cash in most of the games, I think, or in most of the tournaments, just because it was such a low scoring week for most of the uh, games as well as the players, except for Le'Veon Bell, of course. I mean, if you had him, unfortunately, we didn't have him in the lineup I posted. I had him at around 40%. So, I mean, if you had him in the lineup, you cashed. I mean, there was no way around him. Uh, I even cashed with Le'Veon Bell in the lineup as well as Melvin Gordon and Matt Forte, who both went down uh, after scoring less than a point. So both got injured and scored zero point 0.5 and zero point 0.8 points or something. And I still, I think, doubled my money in that tournament with just because I had Le'Veon Bell and um, Emmanuel Sanders as well as Pierre Garçon and the Cousins stack. I was super excited for Matt Forte. If he would have scored better, I would have had a pretty great lineup. But Melvin Gordon already limited me. I think even one guy had Melvin Gordon in the live finals in New York twice in two of his lineups, and he had the best lineups except for Melvin Gordon, and that cost him the money at the end. Anyhow, let's get into week 15. It is not as tough as last week, in my opinion. The prices are not as high and not as tight on most parts. So, because there's already some early injury news and stuff like that, but let's see what we can do here, and if there's more injury news coming out late this week. Always adjust the lineup. Um, there's always some great picks if the starter goes down or something like that. Okay, as our quarterback, we will go with Colin Kaepernick. Had him in lineups last week as well. Got super excited after the 9 points and uh, not even the first quarter. I think it was the first 10 minutes or something, and thought, okay, I had a lineup where I only had Bell, uh, Sanders, and Gresham uh, from the early games, and Kaepernick uh, with Vance McDonald uh, stacked from the later games, and got super excited, but the McDonald went down and Kaepernick stopped scoring, so only doubled the money or something like that. But I mean, I thought I had some great chances on that one this week. It will be different though because Atlanta will shoot them out in the first half already, and San Francisco will have to throw. And I mean, Kaepernick playing from behind, he did that pretty good this season. If you look at the stats, against Miami was a pretty good game when they caught up late in the game and nearly even tied the game. Scored 37 points. New England was decent. I mean, against New England, 19 points is okay. And that was kind of a weird game against the Jets, so they took it too easy. The run game excelled, so they went with the run game, but lost the game later. I mean, that was kind of weird. But this week they won't stand a chance against Atlanta, so he will have to throw a lot, and I hope he does run a lot as well. For our running backs, I didn't want to pick him this week just because everybody will be on him, But Cincinnati, I mean, we saw what Isaiah Crowell did last week. On 10 carries, he scored 113 yards. I mean, on 10 carries with the Cleveland Browns, the running back scored 113 yards against Cincinnati. It's in Cincinnati, so Pittsburgh will be running more again. I mean, when they're at home, there's no doubt I will pick Big Ben. I can even make a point to pick him this week, just because people won't be on him. Last week was bad. Uh, Cincinnati's defense looks pretty good against the pass. He's not at home, so people won't be on him at all. But I think Le'Veon Bell is a safer play. You can also go with LaShawn McCoy, not a bad pick this week. But I hope that those two guys, David Johnson going up against New Orleans and LaShawn McCoy, will take some ownership away from Le'Veon Bell. I mean, look at the touches he saw last week. 38 attempts and 4 receptions. That's ridiculous. And I mean, he won't see 38 attempts, but 23 for sure. He's just such a high volume. They put in Fitz Toussaint last week for one touch. I think he had 1 touch. And then Le'Veon Bell got back in and was like, good job, boy, but let me get in back in. So he will see the volume. He's the only guy, and he's on fire. So no point around him. The next guy is way down here. You probably know who it is and that I like him a lot. It's Dion Lewis. So that is the high risk play, Dion Lewis right here. Denver with their super great defense against the pass. They have the number 1 and number 2 cornerback in the league right now. So I think they will go uh, with their running backs. Everybody expects LeGarrette Blount to have a great game just because all the teams run heavy against Denver. I think they will still give Brady the ball, but he will just throw it to his running backs, and I think Dion Lewis is the best dual threat out of those 3, so he can run as well as catch the ball, and I think if James White's in, most of the defense adjust and think, okay, he will catch a pass, he won't run, so they will go more for a pass rush and cover James White, and I think Dion Lewis is great running as well as catching the ball, so he is a sneaky play this week. He won't be owned at all, just because White put up greater points last week. But he's highly risky. I think he only saw 17 snaps on offense. Not only 2 of his 17 snaps on offense last week. I don't know what this was, but I think he will be great this week. For the lineup, we will go with Kenneth Dixon, though, just because he's a safer play. Going up against Philly, he saw 11 targets last week. That's ridiculous. And 11 attempts. It's an ongoing share with Terrence West, and you never know who gets more of the carries, but I think Kenneth Dixon at 3,800 is a great pick this week. Not as high of an upside, and he will probably be highly owned, but he's a safer bet. Okay, for our wide receiver, we will go with Julio Jones. You see the queue right here. So if he's not gonna suit up, you will have to adjust a little bit. I will make sure to get out a video where I'll talk about the adjustment. If he's doubtful going into the weekend, I think he will play though. I mean, he set out last week. They going against San Francisco, so he might not have to play at all, so they might take him back. But I hope he's going to play just because he will be such an awesome play against San Francisco. the next wide receiver will be right down here, and that's Stephon Diggs going up against the Colts. He saw Jalen Ramsey last week, and everybody who saw Jalen Ramsey, uh, I mean, he shuts down guys. I mean, so bad. I liked him from the beginning on. I love shadow corners just because it's so great to predict what's going to happen in the game. And if they're really good, I mean, you can take out the first wide receiver and go to the second or something. I think Thielen posted pretty good numbers. Um, but I mean, he saw Ramsey here, Peterson here. No, Peterson is on Kansas City. Peters. Or whatever, I always get those wrong. I mean, or yeah, in the week 11 lineup, no, week 12 lineup, I got it wrong as well. I think it's Patrick Peterson, and yeah, whatever. He saw the best. He's the best shadow cornerback. Week 11, he saw Jalen Ramsey, the best future shadow cornerback. Week 14, and he won't be highly owned. I mean, before that, he posted great numbers, 15, 14, 13 targets. Dallas, yeah, I mean, that was a weird game as well, but he saw 8 targets, and I think he will go back to a lot of targets going up against Indianapolis, and he's a sneaky play. He won't be as highly owned just because there's uh, Demarius Thomas and Sanders right around him, who scored pretty good last week and saw 14 targets each, I think. So yeah, he's a great play this week. The other one is gonna be Tyreek Hill himself. Since week 8, only like 3 or 4 receivers scored more fantasy points than he did. And, I mean, he again scored a returning touchdown as well as a receiving touchdown. He forgot the rushing touchdown last week, but I mean, he will probably do this week again. He's just a freak going up against Tennessee. Really bad defense against the pass. I expect a lot out of him, and we will stack him, as you will see later on as well. For our tight end, we will go to Jermaine Gresham. He scared the crap out of me last week. Scored 0 points till I think 3 minutes before 3 minutes into the fourth quarter, and then he picked up 9.5 points or something. Picked up 5 targets, 45 yards. Yeah, that's it. But I mean, you saw how bad Arizona was and how bad Palmer was, and he was horrible against New Orleans. Their defense got better, but I still think they're very beatable through the pass, and people will hopefully be on David Johnson, and that's kind of the contrarian play against David Johnson, both the short yardage guys. Um, yeah, I think New Orleans is very good at covering the first wide receiver as well, so most of the targets will go to Gresham for the short yardage, and Palmer can only throw short passes anymore, so he should be in position for a very great game as well. The last wide receiver or flex will be, where is he? There he is, Rashard Matthews, taking the other side of the Kansas City Tennessee game. He as well saw some tough defense. I mean, Denver, and then Tracy Porter against Chicago, so I didn't expect too much out of him the last 2 weeks. They will now face Kansas City, which is a big play defense, but also allows big plays. So their corners and safety really go for the ball. I mean, they want to score points, and they score about around 50% of the points for Kansas City, which is ridiculous. But that opens up for huge plays for the opponent offense as well. So it's always great going up against Kansas City or playing the Kansas City defense because both, I mean, they don't take away from each other just because they both go for huge plays, and that's why we pick the Kansas City defense for our defense as well, going with the free kill and the Chiefs. So you have the double dip if he scores another return touchdown. And yeah, I mean, great defense. Their pass rush got so good. They even got a sack against Oakland. Not bad. I mean, Oakland has the best offense line in the game right now, and since their pass rush got so good again, the opponent quarterbacks get in trouble, and as I said, the corners and safeties make big plays on them. So yeah, I think that's a very great lineup to head into week 15. It is high upside, but also high rewarding, I think, with a lot of guys that scored great but had tough matchup the last couple weeks, so people won't be on him as much. And I hope it will work out for us and you. Thank you very much for listening, and